So our donut is referencing a single sprinkle. It's doing a good job. We set it all up correctly. We've got these little controls here if I want to change the density of things later on. Did a good job there, but now we're going to make it look even better. So basically no two sprinkles are the same. You could see that not just the colors are different, but also the shapes of them, right? Because I believe it's actually like piping. So they like pipe out this like hard, like a liquid thing, and then once it's hard, then they like chop it with a knife. So some of them come out like all squiggly, some of them come out straight, but they all look a little bit different. So yeah, let's do that. First of all, though, let's make this look not so sharp, because they end up being like rounded on the edges, right? They kind of look like, I mean, not quite a Tic Tac, but it's rounded on the edge there. So to do that, I want to use a Subsurf Modifier, which you may remember we've used a lot, really. So for that, you could go in here and add it as a modifier, but the hotkey, if you want to know that, it's Control-1. That'll add in a subsurf of level 1. Control-2 would do level 2, 3, 4, etc. So I'm just going to go Control-1. Whoops. 1. Okay. And also make sure render is just set to 1, because yeah, we definitely don't need that much detail for our final render. All right, now it's doing this weird pinching thing, but that makes sense for our mesh, because you may remember when we talked about Subsurf, it's like the way it works is it takes, 3 vertices like that, in which case this is a right angle, and then it is blending the two across it like that. So of course it's going to look very pinched going that way. So what we need to do is add in more detail here. So I'm going to add in a loop cut. Okay, so I don't think we talked about this, but a loop cut is, it's basically what this is right here. I want to make one happen here. And to do that, I'm going to hit Control R. In fact, let me just turn on my tool, so it's actually handy. Control R, there we go. And you'll get this little yellow line that'll appear. So that'll ask you like which part of the mesh do you want to put it on. So I want to put it here, click. And then I want to drag this over to the left-hand side and then do another click. And then I'm going to hit Control R again, click, and then drag this over for the other end. And now that looks a lot better. And if I went and hit Shade Smooth, you should see that our sprinkles look a lot nicer now. If you really want, like, you can kind of see, I mean, can you see it? But it looks a little messy in the end there. I mean, if you were really like a narc for like making things look really nice, you would add like an inset here to just clean up that end a little bit better. But look, I mean, that's gonna, it's gonna slow down your render, and you've got it for every sprinkle, and it's like, yeah, who cares? So we're just gonna go with that. Okay, cool. So let's add some variants of this. Okay, so we've got single sprinkle. In fact, might as well just rename this over here, sprinkle. And then I'm going to duplicate it with Shift D, and then I'm going to put it right next to it, just on its X axis, like that. Doesn't matter where you put it, by the way. It's just I'm trying to keep it neat. And then looking at reference, you can see that, wow, you got some really long ones. Okay, so let's do that. Let's make, okay, so I'm going to go into wireframe mode so that I can see through it, and then vertex mode, vertex select mode, which you can also do by hitting number 1 on your keyboard, or 2 for the edges, and then 3 for the faces. So 1, 2, or 3. All right, and then I'm going to click over this to box select, and I'm just going to drag this out. And this is going to be a long one. But long ones, when they're long, they kind of get squiggly, I would imagine, maybe. So I'm going to add in one loop cut here, Control R, click, and then I'll just right click, and then I'll just make this bow out a little bit that way. And then this one, I'll do this here as well. So it's just, I don't know, it's not perfectly straight, right? And then I'll do this one again, and let's make this one short and fat. Short like that. And by the way, that little point in the middle there, we haven't talked about this before, but every object has an origin point, which is kind of, I guess the way to think of it, like that's where it rotates from, that's where, like the center of it. It's kind of like the center of the mass. So that's actually where it will place it on it. So if I actually wanted it to be rested not in the middle of it across here, but on like the end, so like the sprinkles are kind of perched on top of the surface, I would put it up like that. But I don't. I want them to be half submerged, because I think that's how it usually works. When it falls in the icing, it becomes half submerged, so it's fine. But I do want it to be sort of in the center. Move that across. Okay. All right, so that's a short, fat one. And now let's make some squiggly ones. So you can see over here, got some long, squiggly, weird looking pieces. So I'm going to duplicate this one, and let's add 2 loop cuts. So you can increase the number of loop cuts once you've got it active and it's asking you where to put it. If you use your scroll wheel, it's now increasing the number of loop cuts. So I'm going to create 2, click, and then right click, and I'll move this over. In fact, I might, okay, I'll go into vertex, what is this? Not solid view, wireframe mode, and then click and drag. And I'm going to turn on proportional editing, and now I'm going to rotate, and then I'll do the same for this side. Haha. Look at us now. It's coming along. And then, I mean, you could keep doing this as many times as you want, but I'll make one more. One more. Like this, duplicate it across. And let's make this one sort of a, I don't know, somewhere in between. It's not straight, but it's not entirely squiggly either. Something like that. They kind of get weird shaped, right? And I'll just change the height of it as well. Or the size of it, the length of it. Something like that. Okay, cool. Now, you may have noticed that this is not reflected on our donut. And that is because we are still referencing the one single sprinkle in our object mode. And obviously you could swap this out for a different sprinkle, but we cannot use more than one object. And that's because this is the wrong node. What we need to use instead is not an object info, but a collection info node, and reference a collection, which will be our sprinkles. So first of all, we need to move our sprinkles to a collection. So I'm going to select them all. Let me just grab a drink here. There we go. Now I'm going to move it to a new collection by hitting M for move. You could also do it over here, M, and then hit new collection, and I'm going to type in sprinkles, and then OK. Okay, so they're now all moved into here. So now if I was to take my collection here and just like before, click and drag this over to here, you can see it's now added in a collection info node with our new sprinkles selected. And by the way, I mentioned it briefly at the start, but a collection is it's like a folder. It's like a bucket. It's just a way to organize things. You could put, you know, your camera, your lights in here and create another collection and put your donut in it, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, yeah, it helps us because we're going to reference it over here. So now I'm going to take this and put this, of course, into our instance. Haha, what happened? So that's not what we intended. Basically, for something like this, we need to, first of all, make sure that pick instance is enabled for our instances on points. That will actually reference, not load in each one as individual, like unique data things. It'll just make it a lot faster to render. So make sure pick instance is enabled, and then separate children so that we're not referencing all 5 of the sprinkles on each point, but just one of them, and then reset children so that it then uses it, like basically it applies it to here, not based on the distance from there to there, basically. Anyway, you just basically need to check those 3 things. Pick instance, reset children, separate children. And there we go. That looks pretty good. It's the first time I've actually used this like really long one, and I don't know if I like it because it's introducing a lot of clipping. So I've changed my mind, but that's okay. You can change your mind because it's 3D. You know, if we painted this in 2D, we would have some trouble. There we go. That's better. Okay. I'm happy with that. Cool. Now, if we went to back to our rendered mode here, you can see we've got some white Tic Tacs coming all over our donut. So, of course, we could add a new material. We could just make this one, you know, orange. We could make this one, or like, you know, one like this. We can make this one blue, you know, and that does the job. Unfortunately, though, you'll see that every time now this squiggly one here is referenced as an example, it's now a blue one. So that will kind of look repetitive to your eye because the eye will notice that like, all of these squiggly ones look blue, and then all of the straight ones look orange, and then all of the blah, blah, blah. That's not what we want. We want to assign a unique color irregardless of which one of these objects it is. So let's delete that material. Let's keep this one. I'm going to call this one sprinkles, and I'm going to make all of these objects share this one material. You could do it one by one by coming over here and then clicking sprinkles like that and selecting it from the list, or much faster way, select all the objects you want to have as the new material, then select the object you want to copy the material from last, then hit Control L for link and then hit link materials. And now they are all using the exact same material. Aha. Okay, now it might not look like what we want, but let's go to the shading tab and we're going to do something fancy. Okay, so obviously these are now all one solid color, not what we want. What we want to do is in here, base color, we want to add something that will randomize the color dependent on what object it is. Like every time the object is referenced, pick a new thing. So the way we can do this is with a object info node. And again, this is one of those things, is like, how would you know this is the one? Because in like geometry nodes, there was a random value node. It's just one of those things you just have to learn, I guess. But in shading, you use the object info node and then you take the random one at the bottom there. Okay, so I guess it's because it's object data and it's using random object data depending on the object. So I guess it does kind of make sense. Then if I take that and I put that into my base color, what this is doing now is it is referencing between 0 and 1. When it is 0, it is saying it is black. When it is 1, it is saying it is white. And obviously all these other gray values is anywhere in between that. So each one of these has its own unique color, but very depressing looking colors. It's not, no kid's gonna pick that one at the donut shop. One more sec. Yeah, you could make it look really sad, couldn't you? It's like, wah, wah, wah. Do you want to have the world's saddest donut, Johnny? Come on. Anyway, what we can do instead, as I mentioned before, there is a node that we use a lot, and that is Shift-A, Converter, Color Ramp. Now, if I put this in between here, it's still using the 0 to 1, but it's now converting it through a color ramp. So everything that is on the 0 end of the scale will get this color. Everything that is on the the 1 end of the scale will get this color, okay? So instead, I could make these colors anything I want. I can make this one red, I can make this one, blue, something like that. And look at that, haha, we have something interesting. So already we've got really nice looking colors. But you can see that, some of these ones, like the difference in color between this one, and this one, they're similar, but they're all slightly different. And of course, that is because it's using an independent value somewhere in this gradient. Gradient, yes, that's the word I'm looking for. And that's not how sprinkles are made. Sprinkle values are constant. It is either orange or it is white. It is not somewhere a blend between orange and white because, as I said before, it is piped royal icing, generally speaking. I think it is. My wife does cookies, but royal icing, and then it's hardened, and then you do like another line of a different color. So you have to like mix it in like food dye and then do it out. Basically, it's one constant color. So instead of linear, if we change the color ramp gradient type to be constant, there will then be no gradient. Okay, it's just basically one of these values. It's either blue or it is either red, and that is what we want. So now if I was to add another value just by hitting the plus button, I could add new colors. And this is where it's really fun. You can finally have fun. You can be creative with your donut. I feel like I'm losing my voice in the middle of this tutorial. Muscle through it. All right, let's make this one a purple color. By the way, here's a pro tip. Don't use 100% saturation, ever. Generally, like 0.8 is really all you ever need. So somewhere around that. And let's make this one 0.8, something about that. And then let's make this one yellow. And this is, you can have fun with it, right? I'm going to go for a color scheme, which is, let's go sort of a pink color. That's looking nice. And then you could go with like a white color as a final one. And you can see that the great thing about this one is I can now control how many colors of each that I get. Like if I think there's too many purple ones, I could, increase it and make it like now there's more blue. Or I could go like this way and make like there's more pink ones, or there's more yellow ones, or there's more white ones. So you can have creative control of it. And in fact, this is actually recommended like as a sort of an art rule. You never want to go like when you're using colors, you don't want to use the same amount of each color. You actually want to use like, I actually got a video on color schemes. If you want to watch it, you can click up there and watch it. But yeah, it explains, if you're going to use like like a complementary color scheme or something like that. You don't go like, purple that goes with the yellow and you use like 50-50 of each. It looks nasty. You want to go like 90% of one color and then 10% of another. So anyways, something fun there. Yeah. I mean, guys, that's going to do it for this really the style and visual look of your donut. It's all here. So if you want to make it your own, now is your chance. Like you could change it and make it like a chocolate donut, right? By the way, I didn't explain this, but you can like click and drag any color from one to another and it'll like copy it, which is cool. You could make it like a Halloween donut that's like red and, I don't know, spooky. Oh, that looks like it kind of looks like a 4th of July donut or something. I see a lot of 4th of July decoration. I want to go to a 4th of July party one day. I've been to America a few times. I don't think I've been there during 4th of July. Looks like it'd be fun. Eating a lot of sugary foods and hanging out, having a barbecue, setting off fireworks. We don't have fireworks here in Australia. They're illegal, along with many other things. We can't even have gel blasters. Our government's like, no. We're going to side with Syria, North Korea, and Kuwait by also banning gel blasters. And Singapore as well. All right, so we're in there with Singapore, but it's like we can't be trusted with anything. Don't let us have anything. But anyways, but yeah, have some fun with it, guys. This is your chance to make it your own before we start animating it and doing stuff. There was a guy on Twitter who was actually like, he was like mad that I was making another donut tutorial. And he was like, are you actually going to encourage people this time to make the donut their own? I'm sick of seeing all these pink donuts. I was just laughing because I like that, like someone out there, like that's how they start their day. They just like open up Twitter and they're just seeing pink donuts. And they're like, oh, I said no more pink donuts. So, first of all, he didn't watch the last one, obviously, because it was the same instruction. I said, like, make it your own. Have some fun, But, that's Twitter. Oh, and one final thing I forgot. The balls. Balls? That's for a Christmas tree. But the balls, because something I really like that I saw on Pinterest was this one. I like the way that the balls sort of break up the... I don't know, just the repetitiveness of the sprinkles. So I did it for the last tutorial. I'll do it here as well. And as you can imagine, it is, you add a sphere. So let's go Shift A, sphere, UV sphere. There's icosphere, which is used occasionally when you feel like it. I don't know. You'll get the hang of it. But usually you want a UV sphere. And it's ginormous by default. So let's just scale that in. You could also do it, when you add in the sphere. But, I usually forget. Okay, scale it in, and then, okay, so then I'm going to shade smooth, of course, and let's give it a material. Let's go blue, something like that. I mean, the one that was in this was like almost like metallic, but I kind of like it like this. I might just lower the saturation a little bit, and the roughness. I'll make it like a sort of a hard lolly, like that. Cool. Now, if we were to move this into our sprinkles collection, then, oh, okay, it is actually working. It's just that this sphere is, we haven't cleared the scale. So if I was to clear the scale, there we go. Now we can actually see them on our donut. They were there. They were just so big that they were out there. You can see that it's now for every, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Every 6th sprinkle, it's using one of these balls. Still a little too big. And this was an area that actually particles had an advantage because there was use count. If you followed the last tutorial, where you could say like basically the ratio of which, like the number of objects that's spread out in a particle system. You can do it with geometry nodes, but it is incredibly difficult, way too complex. And I want to keep it simple. And look, honestly, we don't need that many. We really only want like 3 or 4 on the whole donut. So I say just move it out of the sprinkles collection and then just actually physically put it on the donut like this. Move it across, like that. And here's a pro tip. You never want to use like 2 of something. It just kind of looks like that would look too balanced, right? So it's better to have 3 or 4 in this case. And you also don't want to have it like a triangle like this. It looks like they've been too evenly placed. You want to make it look a little more plausible, you know, like someone tossed it onto the donut. So maybe one here, and then I'll chuck one at the bottom as well, like so. And that'll do it. And play with the colors if you want, but you could also play with the sizes. I think this one, they actually got like a few big ones and then a few small ones as well. I'm just going to go with the big ones, but that's going to do it. So when you've finished making the donut look cool, go ahead, click here, and we are going to start animating this. So I'll see you there.